going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 305. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him... Sitting here on a Thursday, slightly chilly, Austin, Texas, little bit of a cold front coming in here. He's got the long sleeves on. So as we get ready for another Sunday night match here for our favorite team, I'll ask you, as I always do, how you feeling, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to get back to one of my winning teams here, Austin. My Lakers are in trouble. My Athletic Madrid, they got bounced. So Austin FC, I'm relying on you this weekend to raise my spirits here. I've always enjoyed these matchups with Minnesota. I like a lot of their players. I think they play a fun, exciting brand of soccer. And historically, as we will get into here, Austin has been quite successful up there in Minnesota. So I'm excited for this one. And I don't know why. I just want to say Gedugenspor again.
Yeah. Well, you say fun, exciting brand of soccer. Maybe now, right now that Eric Ramsey is gone, because I think most people, including their own fans last year, said they did not play an exciting brand of soccer with the last in the league in possession and scoring on all the set pieces. Like, we tried to pick up a few of those things this year, I guess. But, well, and since you brought up the other sports, dude, I just got to say, it does apply to this game that we're about to preview, because this week, I want the people of Minnesota to feel all the pain they can possibly imagine. Sports pain. But look, we started it last night. 47-point lead on the Minnesota Timberwolves. You do it again on Friday. You do the double on Saturday. Spurs, Austin FC. Same time, we're going to have to dual screen wherever we're at. One of the first times ever, I think, in our North End recording history that sends me a private message while I'm ranting that makes me stop in my tracks. That was good. We'll keep that in the DMs. I think that's my signal to move on. The message from the Signal chat. Look, we will preview Sunday night soccer against Minnesota United on episode 305. Checking back in on a team that we already saw this season, the first time, or the first kind of return leg, so to speak, of the 2026 season. We'll talk about the Loons. We will talk about the second team being back in action. Actually, I think we need tri-screen for about half an hour on Sunday night, because the second team kicks off at 7:30 on Sunday at Palmer Field. We've got some Boy Factory updates and, of course, the nonsense here in the midweek. So before we get into all of that, want to remind you all, as we always do, that you can support the show financially for free just by downloading the audio versions of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. You can toggle on auto downloads. That'll support us in that fashion going forward, and you won't have to think about it again. If you want to go the extra mile, rate and review the show wherever you get those pods. And if you are watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. It does help us grow the show. Wouldn't say it every time. If it didn't, you can also hit the bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, you're in episode 305. Hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins. Timberwolves, Minnesota as a whole, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. I guess as Prince would say, the waters of Lake Minnetonka. You're muted, so no jolly laugh coming through there for the people. But for the audio listeners, I did get a laugh for the Chappelle Show reference. And this usually brings a smile to our face when we can announce a new GP! And it's Uncle Dave. Finally, the Unk finally figuring out the technology to get joined up here. I think we got to help him out getting into the Discord as well. But shout out to Uncle Dave, of course, the official North End videographer. And I think because I forgot to post Uncle's clips that he got of the goals last week, we'll go ahead and drop those in the Patreon Discord for everybody to enjoy. Always a good North End angle there from our section mate. So welcome, Unc. Glad that you're here. And again, you can sign up for our Patreon, get access to that Discord, the giveaways, all that good stuff. Link to join is in the description of this episode, both on the YouTube and the audio version. You got words for Uncle Dave?
Of course, one of the OGs of
he's in the song. He's been
in the song since day one of song creation. One of the OGs, another upstate New Yorker as well. We've had that connection. We had the same birthday, actually, so we have that going for us as well. So super, super happy to see Uncle in there, and the videographer footage is always top class. It's always really nice. He's always got the phone out. I know that we we'll look over to him if we're potentially looking at calls and like, hey,
looking for a replay.
Did you get that, Unc? You watching it? And he'll pull it up for us. So super excited to have Unc in there. And this gives us, two places to talk shit to him.
Yeah, there you go. And, and I know it's been another lively week in that Discord. We added a couple channels in there. So again, good things happening with the Patreon members. Let's talk about really just one piece of Austin FC related news here before we get into our match preview for today. This is announced this morning on Thursday by club president Andy Loughnane, and he was announcing, I think my speculation when we saw that there was going to be a press conference today related to the World Cup, my guess was a friendly against the Saudi Arabian team who will be using our facilities as their home base for the tournament. But it turns out it is something I think probably much cooler. The Austin Soccer Celebration was announced on Thursday. This is a series of free events, original programming, and live viewings of the FIFA World Cup 2026 throughout the competition. So we'll get started those first 2 days of the tournament, June 11th and 12th. This will be at Auditorium Shores, where Austin FC will transform the Shores into a fan destination, again, for free, where we can all enjoy food and beverage offerings, beer garden style spaces, some family friendly activities, and of course a high energy atmosphere because they will be showing the first 4 opening matches over those 2 days of the tournament. So that features all 3 host teams or nations rather. Canada on the 11th, then the Mexico and United States, Mexico on the 11th, Canada and the U.S. both playing their first group stage matches on the 12th. So large video screens out there at Auditorium Shores. And of course, we've seen the club do well with Auditorium Shores before last year, the activations around the MLS All-Star Game. So that's the first 2 days of the tournament. And then the rest of the time, June 13th, all the way through the final on July 19th, Austin FC will head to In Cahoots there in East Austin. Another free, this time 37-day soccer hub, daily programming and live viewings for every World Cup match this summer. Fans can follow every moment there in that centralized location, for the 100 matches across those, about 5, maybe 6 weeks here of the tournament. In addition, Austin FC is partnered with Fox 7 Austin, our Fox affiliate here in town. And of course, Fox is the official broadcaster. So there will be local tournament-related programming throughout the summer, including a dedicated magazine-style show hosted by Dennis De La Pena and featuring former U.S. men's national team and Austin FC forward Giassi Zardes. So Giassi showing back up for the World Cup here this summer. There will be additional details released by the club, including, event times, registration, programming schedules. They're going to announce that ahead of our home match next Saturday against Sporting KC, because that match against Sporting KC at Q2 is the club's celebration of the global game. Extravaganza. I don't know. That's our specialty for that night. That will be presented by the 4ATX Foundation. So again, Austin's going to take this 2-month break here during the World Cup, but if you want to get your soccer fix in Austin and do it with a little bit of a Verde tint to your experience, the club is certainly providing.
This sounds awesome, man. Particularly those first 2 days, in my opinion. I think that'll be like a lot of people there showing up, really excited about the beginning of the cup here. And I mean, the club, when they do stuff like this, has really done well every single time. And I mean, having this be a free event where there's food and people around and beers, all that sounds great to me. I think we might have to make an appearance.
Yeah, I think so. For me, dude, I didn't tell you this before we started recording here today, but I got the hip surgery scheduled. Turns out it is June 12th, so I'm gonna be high for that game. And definitely not at Auditorium Shores, unfortunately for me.
Okay.
I have that fucking hip brace on, sitting laying in bed probably.
I'll wheel you around, bro.
Yeah, okay. I'll
do that.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm trying to get back. All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about Minnesota. Again, we've seen them already this season, but of course, a lot of things were different, really, for both clubs. So you are on the written preview this weekend at the northendpodcast.com, so I will let you get us started on our second Loons preview of 2026.
Yeah, as I mentioned at the top there, these matchups have been fun between Austin and Minnesota United. 6-2-5 all time for Austin. 6 wins, 2 draws, and 5 losses when they match up against the Loons. Interestingly enough, what just popped up while we were chatting before the show here, this is the away stadium that we have had probably the most success in. I want to say I don't have the official number, but
how many wins is it though against Minnesota?
4 out of 7 all time with a draw. So like we have done really well up there. That also means that they have done well in Austin in that first matchup on February 21st of this season to open the season. 2-2 draw, a game that Austin deserved to win, and maybe that kind of kicked off this Austin deserves more kind of narrative that has been going on since the start of this season. But as you mentioned, both teams in very different places right now. I was working on this preview article before, and I got to the section for Austin, and we used the little template and everything. The last article is always like still there, and I remember seeing the first sentence being like, well, this sucks. And then the contrast from what I knew I was going to write about, like, are you excited yet? Are you ready to roll? Like, we're finally getting to this point where we're getting healthy. So unless you've been living under a rock, obviously Brandon Vasquez, Owen Wolf back into the team, and as well as Danny Pereira. But we've been waiting to see those two guys that I mentioned at the top there. This Minnesota team right now is sitting in 5th place in the Western Conference. That, I think, needs a lot more context to be provided, which I know that I will get into some stuff that I was looking at while I was pulling up this preview. But again, this has been a favorable place for us to play. We obviously have the U.S. Open Cup match last year where you get the fantastic and glorious win that moved us forward in that tournament. So this has been a friendly confide for Austin FC, and a team that I think, we're discussing on the way up to the match last weekend there, where it's like, okay, you look at the top 4 teams in the West. I solidly believe and think that those teams are just a class above us, a tier higher than us.
Which are
San Jose, Vancouver, LAFC, Seattle.
Okay.
And then after that sits Minnesota. And then there's this cluster, right? And I think of that second kind of tier of teams here, Minnesota and Austin, pretty similar. But I think, once healthy, and a lot needs to happen here, we've got to see what this looks like. I think this is a club that we're ultimately better than. And I thought that was on display in the first matchup, obviously up 2-1 in the waning moments of that game. Bobby T gets injured. We're playing kind of down a man. They have that counterattack, which they love to do. I highlighted Kelvin Yeboah quite a bit in the preview, and he's able to net the equalizer there in the 90th minute and kind of started that trend, that run for Austin that was just like heartbreaking kind of loss, or not heartbreaking results from where you stood prior in the game. So I'm excited about this one. This is a get-back game. As you mentioned, our first time we were seeing a team for the second time this season, and I'm ready for it, and I feel like the team has a lot of positive energy. We had the clip in the Discord of Mirtu and Ilya kissing each other's hands. Poor Guilherme sitting in between them.
I know. It just
cracks me up. Absolutely killing me, man. So I'll let you jump in here a little bit more and then I'll get into some personnel stuff as well.
Yeah, I think I want to just kind of dive in a little bit into like what they've done between that 2-2 draw and now. And you mentioned, right, sitting on 20 points. So they are at the top of that cluster of teams that we think are just kind of make up the rest of the Western Conference, because like you said, like I'm clearly on board with you in terms of that top 4 tier there. And Minnesota sitting at the top of the heap for kind of the best of the rest, so to speak. So like recently, they were the team that we mentioned, I want to say on the preview for Houston, that got blitzed by San Jose in the Open Cup, got hit. They were up 2-1 on the road, right? Which again, San Jose has been great this year, and they did not rotate for that match. And then the Quakes scored 3 goals in 8 minutes. We've heard that before. Quakes win 4-2. But the Loons, dude, turned around, beat Columbus 3-2 on the road this weekend. And I think that was... I was listening to a couple Minnesota pods because I think Minnesota, one of the fan bases that I would still give Austin the nod, but like for that like fan-made independent media content, like they're up there, definitely top 3rd in the league. So it was the Looney Bin podcast that mentioned that the style of play against Columbus reminded them of those Eric Ramsey teams of the last 2 years because they had very low possession in that match. And they scored, I believe, all 3 goals off set pieces, as long as you count those long throws as set pieces. 2 came off a corner, and 1 came off the long throw. And I was looking at the stats, which I know we'll dive into as well, but they're 6th in set piece goals now with 6. But I think it's important context, so shout out to the Looney Bin for that half of those came in that one match last week. So I think that was more of the outlier rather than this team showing that they're going to start scoring like they were last season. So I thought that was good context there, and that their spirits are up in Minnesota right now. Like you mentioned, dude, 20. I mean, they have a -2 goal differential. We have a -3, but they have 7 more points than us.
And I think, context in regard to where they're sitting at in the table, I think is also really important. As it stands right now, they've only beat 2 teams that are above the playoff line in either conference, right? Dallas and Cincinnati without Evander. So like neither of those wins are just like popping off the screen like that's a signature win. And then you look at how they fared against what we classify as that tier 1 group.
Yeah.
You lose to Vancouver 6-0. You lose to LAFC 1-0, and then you have that San Jose defeat 4-2 in the Open Cup there. Pair that with a 3-1 loss to Nashville as well, and it seems like a heaping amount of evidence that this team has beaten up on the poorer teams in this league, which you have to do, and really struggled against more quality opponents, which is why I can't really put them in that top 4 that you see there. And again, I think, the context without Evander and the Cincinnati win was big because that was a tight game. So while they do have those 20 points, the contrast between the schedule for Austin to start the season and the schedule for Minnesota to start the season is huge. And those 3 losses for Minnesota, man, have been ass whoopings besides the LAFC game. That was a tight game.
I do remember that match. I want to say it was like an early David Martinez goal, and then they just held on the rest of the way. LAFC, that is. I know there was no Sun in that because, we're paying attention to Sun with him on the basketball team this year, and he was rotated out for that match. So, again, on the score line, certainly doesn't measure up to the 3-1 against Nashville, the 6-0 against Vancouver. And, like, also, dude, like, if we want to talk about what happened on opening night, they were moments away from losing to us as well. And again, I know what happened. That was a draw, and they earned it. But I think I'm with you. And I hadn't even looked into the fact that they hadn't really been, I think they have earned their mid-table placement right now by beating the teams below them. And I'd say competing with the teams above them. Because like 6-0 Vancouver, they're not the first team to go in there and get whooped like that.
For sure. And I think it's just, you look at the table, right? They're 5th, we're 11th. And I think this context shows, and as the 2-2 draw, which Austin should have won, you should have seen out that game. You didn't. And I'm not trying to say that Austin is, setting the world on fire or anything like that. But 5th and 11th, these 2 teams are much closer than that would have you believe. And I think that context with who they've they've beaten and more importantly, who they have not been able to beat. It is really important here. And I'm not saying that we're as good as San Jose or Vancouver or anything like that. We have a lot to prove.
Yeah.
But 5th and 11th, it's a bit deceiving.
Yeah, I mean, I look at some of the teams that they played that we have also played, and it's not a ton of crossover there, but they lost 1-0 to LAFC at home. We drew 0-0 against LAFC, who did have sun in on that day. And they also lost 2-1 to the Galaxy, albeit their match was on the road. But I see a lot of similarities there in the sense that I think at present, I view both of these teams, again, as we said, similarly, but they're both, I think, very mid-table in terms of like what you should expect going forward until we get some further context that indicates one or both will go higher up or drop, completely below that playoff line. I'm not sure why this keeps refreshing on my screen here. So let's just go to the roster build. Again, this is a 2-4 build here. Joaquin Pereira, Kelvin Yeboah, the 2 DPs. And you mentioned Yeboah. He's been on fire, dude. All it took was us dropping him in basketball. Now on 7 goals this season. They are led in assists by it's a tie between Pereira and Tomas Chancalay. We talked about him before that season opener, right? Was a DP for the Revs. Underwhelming, but also tore his ACL and now back healthy. He's been pretty good. 1 goal, 4 assists. Joaquin Pereira also has 4 assists. And Anthony Marcanic picking up where he left off last season in terms of those counting stats, 3 goals, 2 assists for the left back. What else you got in terms of player personnel?
I mean, those are the 3 guys that I really wanted to highlight and talk about because those are the 3 guys that make this team go here with Pereira, Yeboah, and Marcanic. Throw in Chancalay, who we definitely targeted and thought that was a good, cheap, low-risk kind of signing to bring him in. He's starting to produce as well. I think Pereira is one of the more underrated players in this league. He doesn't have a goal yet this season, but as you talked about with those assists, he's able to get people involved. The departure of Tani Oluwaseyi allowed Kelvin Yeboah to really get going, completely own that striker position for them, and he's done the most with it. He's good in the air, and when you have him paired with Pereira, you're able to get balls delivered into the box on the ground or in the air that it has been clinical with as of late. Marcanic, one of the better offensively minded left backs in this league. They push him forward. Kyle Duncan on the other side. They also throw him forward, get those 2 guys up the sidelines and really incorporate them into the offense. You did talk about how their brand of football last year was not as attractive or exciting as it has been this year. They were scoring more, but the style still has the components of we're going to play some stout defense. We're going to look for our opportunities, and then we're going to hit you on the counterattack. And then once we have those guys kind of push forward, we keep that high press on. Top 4 in possession 1 in the final third this season. So they have a distinct brand of football that they like to play, and I think that kind of leans into a positive for Austin. We've seen Austin in the past, right? Particularly on the road, be more than content to not have the ball, allow the other team to have the ball. And that's just not something that Minnesota wants to do. They get a little bit skittish when they're in possession. They have a hard time breaking down lines without formational number advantages. So if you're able to allow Minnesota to play with the ball and keep your eye on Pereira because he is great in distribution, and don't let the 0 goals fool you. This dude has a cannon of a shot.
Remember the goal against in the Open Cup?
As we should be well aware of, because he had the Open Cup goal. He had the banger in the 3-1 loss last season, right?
Yeah, brace. Yeah.
Yep. So he's a very talented player. As long as you keep your eyes on him, he's the guy that I look to when they're in possession to be like, where's he at? He's the one we have to find because he's a threat whenever he has the ball at his feet there. We're big fans, not only because of his name of Nectarius Triantis, who's just a quality player with a fantastic name as well. And he's somebody who's creative, has I think, really good timing to his game and a feel for where he needs to be. They deploy him a little bit all over. So, and then sitting right there, one of the all-time most hated, Michael Boxall.
Yeah. And Boxall is back now. I think he missed, I want to say 9 games, may have been 8, but he was out the better part of 2 months and just returned last match from injury. And 2 things that you said that were kind of sticking with me is, like you said, Kelvin Yeboah good in the air. We know, especially at South End, getting that dunk in stoppage time in the opener. And like thinking back to like pre-Eric Ramsey Loons, since we've been in the league, like remember how scary Emmanuel Reynoso was?
Oh my God.
When he was across the ball from us, man.
Yep.
Like, very glad he's gone.
Haven't even talked about James yet.
I took the words right out of my mouth. The guy we have not even mentioned yet.
Yeah.
James Rodriguez is just on this team at the very least for about 8 more days. And like, he hasn't, like, we didn't expect, all right. When I say we, I mean, I think just like the general MLS discourse, right? Did not expect James to come in here and play a ton, but I imagine Loons fans wanted a little bit more than they've got. Just 1 start. And I think just north of 100 total minutes. So I did see today from Andy Greeter, who's both like a Loons, just kind of Minnesota sports beat writer, does a lot of stuff with the T-Wolves as well. And Greeter reported that the Columbia camp begins on May 15th. So unless James doesn't go to camp on time, which you would think, like the whole point of him playing with Minnesota is to be in shape for this.
Yeah.
So I think there's only 2 more opportunities for him to appear with Minnesota before the team has to decide on that option, because he only signed for half a season. And I think all indications are that the team is not going to pick up that option. But like, wouldn't it be just our luck that he comes and makes an impact? His 1 game with an impact. It feels like to me that it's going to be this fucking Sunday.
I don't even want to think about that. I mean, I'm just so happy that we weren't serious about this guy.
Yeah.
I think this is a bad look for Minnesota. I think this is a bad look for the league as a whole, to have this guy come over here with the name brand, the recognition, the face value, the international experience and success at that level. Have him play 100 minutes since he's arrived and then be out the door after the World Cup. It's just really pathetic. And like you meant, like, we forgot about him to bring him up. Like, if he was balling and playing well, he would have been the first person we talked about. But he's done almost nothing for this team since arriving here. He's been a bit of an afterthought. And I just really don't like this. This has left me with like a sour taste in my mouth about this situation, and like signing the half-year deal. Like, it's stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, how is he going to have a relationship with any of these guys in the locker room where it's like, yeah, dude, I'm just here so I don't get fat. You know what I mean? It's just I got to plan it a little bit just to be ready for this camp. So I think this is a really bad look for the league and Minnesota as general. And, you took the risk when you rolled the dice with this guy. You probably had some indication that he wasn't going to, be contributing right away or at all, and that you might lose him as well. So, just kind of a bummer, because I know how many people like him and want to see him and everything. And like the fact that he's just, it just feels like one of, almost like Gareth Bale when he came over here a little bit, and like, it wasn't, but he did make a huge impact.
I was going to say, at least he won the title for him, basically. But yeah, man, I mean, and I think like from any jokes aside, it's been a problem for them being able to get him on the field with Joaquin Pereira, because they're kind of carbon copies. Like, I know like James Rodriguez, greater than sign in a lot of areas, especially just like career as a whole, but they haven't played a ton together. The 1 game that James started, Pereira was off the bench. And I think if you put both of those guys on the field, I think I would welcome that, because what Minnesota's gaining in offensive threat, which is significant with both of those guys on the field in terms of chance creation, I think you become very porous defensively in that midfield. And so like, I would welcome that. I think I would rather see both or neither start. Of course, neither would be great, rather than one, because then I think you're getting 90 minutes. If James is on the bench, I think he's going to come in relief, or they can pair them if we, get a lead and are trying to hold on. Yeah. So that's just something to watch when that Loons lineup drops. And I also think that I believe the sporting director's name is Khaled Al-Ahmad, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he's got a James replacement or like the body already on the roster. This guy named Dominic Fitz. He's one of those TAM players you see on the roster profile here. Now, Fitz came over last summer in, I want to say, late July, early August. It's like a $2.5 million transfer, right? So TAM player, you're expecting a lot out of those TAM slots. The best teams in the league are going to hit on the majority of their guys that are in the TAM spots. Was signed to a 4.5-year contract here. So like this is a guy that Al-Ahmad saw for the future. And he's not a U22, right? This guy's 26 right now. And he has not played this season and played minimally last year. Fitz missed at the beginning of this season 3 games due to an undisclosed medical condition. Then he had a hamstring injury. Then played for the second team March 15th, got onto the first team bench against the Galaxy April 4th. Then injured again or some sort of undisclosed something, played again with the second team on April 26th, and multiple Loons pods this week, sarcastically celebrating him making the bench again last week, but still has not debuted because, dude, Dominic Fitz was a guy. And, I'll go ahead and say he was a dude.
Yeah.
In Austria, right? He is Austrian. That's native country. He spent his entire professional career there until coming over to the States last summer. Dude, in the 3 full seasons in the Austrian league before coming to the States, 24, 12, and 17 goal contributions. I don't care where you're playing. As long as you're playing in a country I've heard of and you're producing like that, this is a guy who can probably come in and make a difference to some sort of extent for this Loons team. They just haven't seen him yet. And so I wanted to highlight that as somebody that you could potentially see come into this match at some point this weekend. And I think it's also a name that we'll probably be talking about going forward unless he just completely flames out and they like move him back to Europe or something. But this is a guy that they clearly signed to be a mainstay with the club for a long time.
And kind of goes with that track record right now with dudes that they're just not getting a ton of production out of. We talked about James. You talked about Fitz there a little bit. And then one of our favorite players here in the North End outside of Austin, Bongi Longwane, man. No goals, no assists on the season. This is a guy
he's also been out.
They've counted on him in the past. He's been banged up a little bit, but like he's sitting on a little over 360 minutes right now, so he's gotten some time, but he's struggled out of the gates. And like I know I talked about how they've not fared well against some of the upper echelon teams here, but they aren't getting the production out of some of the key players that I thought they were. We talked about Pereira not having a goal yet. Chanclay has been improved, but without Boxall, Fitz, and Longwane, and now Gressel's out, they've had some injuries as well. So they're trying to figure stuff out a little bit. Obviously, we talked about in the first episode when we previewed this team, the head coaching change. Eric Ramsey obviously out. The head coach's name right now is escaping me.
Cameron Knowles.
There it is. Yep. So they didn't change their style entirely. They still have some principles that were there when Ramsey was in town. This is just a team that has some guys, and I know that they want to beat us here after what happened last season. I know they want to beat us at home bad after what happened last year.
Yeah, and you see the lineup from their last match there, right? Running the 3-4-3, Marcanic and Duncan out there as the wingbacks. And next to Nectarios Triantis in that midfield is Owen Jen, right? He's one of those U22 guys that was injured for the vast majority of last season and has been making a bigger impact here in his second go-round with the Loons. Some team stats here, they're just 27th in average possession. So to your point about some of those elements still being present, 43.6% possession on average for Minnesota. They're just 23rd in goals per game, but 11th in goals conceded per game and 7th in MLS with 4 clean sheets. They are 11th in XG, but just 23rd in goals per game, as I mentioned. So this is a team that is missing some big chances. They've missed, or they are 18th in big chances created with just, again, 23rd in goals per game. Sixth in set piece goals, as I mentioned, behind Austin's 8. Austin FC still leads the league in that category. And they are 10th best in set piece goals conceded with just 2. So we got one over on them 7 minutes in that opener.
Yeah.
Faku to Heinzike off the corner. But they have been, again, just giving up 1 set piece goal since. 20th in expected goals against, and they're 9th in fouls per match, but just 21st in yellow cards. So physical, but disciplined. And I think overall, right, just kind of jumping back to the roster build to close this out, at least for me, it's one of the lower spending teams historically. Yeah. And like, we got 2 up close and personal examples of them being a little bit cheap this past offseason with the Dane St. Clair stuff. And then how we got Joseph Rosales. They didn't want to pay him the last couple of years, and we swooped in there and grabbed who we think is one of our best players right now. Anything else for you on Minnesota? Because obviously we have some things to discuss about our favorite team as well.
I am all set on Minnesota.
So talking about us, I did want to clean up some of that Stuver talk, right? Because we were mentioning on the last episode that on the American Soccer Analysis tables that Brad was leading in goals minus expected goals. He's also leading, I believe, in goals added, which, again, is one of those stats that, when it's the right player, would get a lot of attention from the national media. But we went ahead over to FOTMob because you know how much I love the expected goals on target metric. So Stuver's second highest in the league in goals minus expected goals on target, meaning he's allowed 6.1 fewer goals than expected through the first 11 matches. So once again, Brad Stuver, decidedly not washed. And I also had a friend reach out and let me know that the statistical differences in the American Soccer Analysis tables are because they do not count own goals. So we have one own goal, and we have benefited as well from one own goal. So that's why those numbers did not match up the actual goals for and against in the table. I also found this interesting, and this is from a new app called the Soccer Data Visor here, but it's a partnership between St. Louis Soccer News, who do great work there in St. Louis. I know tagged us in a couple things with their previews for last Sunday's match, and Chat City Tactics, which is a Substack. They have combined to make this little app. You can just go to soccerdatavisor.com and you can find all this awesome stuff pulling from ASA and ESPN and FOTMob. And this chart really stood out to me, because this is something that like our buddy, the stat man, Tim Thompson has charted in the past. But you've got it right here on the Data Visor. Look at those goals in the last 15 minutes and second half stoppage time. 2/3 of the goals that Austin FC has conceded have come in the 76th minute or later, and 6 of them, 1/3 of those goals, in second half stoppage time. So, like, again, some of those are we're getting piled on, by San Jose or whatever. But either way, about almost 1/3 of the way through the season here, that is a concerning trend. I like to see that we start fast. And I would say that like 6 of our goals coming 76 minutes or later, like we've been finishing strong enough offensively. It's just been the defense that's been a fucking problem at the end of these games.
Yeah, and I mean, this really paints a picture, right? When you timed up the Stuver numbers there and then show this as well, because it's not a goalkeeping issue.
Yeah,
this is not a goalkeeping issue. This is tired legs. This is losing mental focus on the defensive side of the ball, and a little bit of bad luck. Austin has had some bad luck in these later moments of these games and everything, as we talked about with the Bobby T injury. Minnesota getting that equalizer here. I don't want to focus too much on that negative. I want to jump back to Brad, man. The nonsensical washed narrative that popped up from one person is just like we're not. This is one of the best goalkeepers in the fucking league. He has been one of the best goalkeepers in the league for fucking years now. He doesn't get talked about enough. We talked about it last year, how he was going to get the all-star nod because we were hosting, but he's an all-star again this season, in my opinion. If you're looking at these numbers and figures and you see teams like, LAFC with Lloris and their amount of clean sheets and how they got out of the gates and everything like that. Then you look at their spend, the players that they have out and everything like that. So shout out to Bradley Scott Stuver. And when we were going to, as we were transitioning and talking about us, I was going to wish Minnesota well and trying to beat this dude because he's on top of his fucking game right now. You lose a game 5-1 and your XG improves. That's really fucking saying something.
Yeah, man, this guy has been under fire this season. Of course, not news to us. Here's a conversation I wanted to have. I don't know how lengthy this is going to be, but I'm interested, as I'm sure a lot of fans are, on Jaden Nelson's status, and is he going to be inserted back into this starting lineup? And let's say, just for this scenario, he's good to go, cleared to go out there and warm up, right? Like, same circumstances headed into the match as the team had last week. I would assume you put him on the starting 11. Like, do you think it's smart to keep starting Jaden Nelson if we know the threat of him getting pulled even in warmups, right? Again, that you lose a spot on the roster, which is tougher to plan for on the road, especially since some of the guys we would pull up to be in his stead are also playing with the second team this weekend, you would think. Now, with guys back, John Kolmanich didn't make the match day roster, so you don't necessarily have to dig into the second team. But, I guess, what are your thoughts on Jaden's situation? Because if we are assuming that he and the club are being extra cautious because of his chance to be called up by Canada for the World Cup, how do you think we should handle this?
Are we saying, are we saying right now as the team currently is, or are we saying when we're fully healthy, Owen and BV all the way ramped up, they're back there themselves again?
Well, I think we should stick with the former because I don't think we're getting the latter before the World Cup. So I don't think it'll matter ultimately when those guys are healthy.
In that situation where we're at right now, I do think he starts. I do think he should start. If we were completely ramped up with Owen and BV ready for the full, whatever they're Owen probably 90 out of BV as well, then I would actually say no. And I would actually have him come off the bench in those situations. The aspect of, is he dealing with a knock that's going to potentially limit or eliminate his opportunity to play in the World Cup? And as I said, I understood that, and I found it frustrating at the same time, but I totally get it. I think with that type of context, you have to give a bit of a nod to someone else in that situation. I do want to get into what our choice 11 is going to look like and everything like that, because as I mentioned on the last episode, I am almost completely firmly cemented in Joseph Rosales starting in the midfield from here on out. And does that take into account my affinity for Biru? Yes, but I think when you look at what Biru brings to this team, a team that is otherwise, pretty structured, lacking creativity at times, Jeremy provides an element on the offensive side of the ball that's difficult to game plan for. Whereas if you have Pep and Ilya in the midfield and then Joe Rowe at left back, I think that's a little bit more, it's probably a little safer, it probably is a little safer, but I do think it's a little easier to game plan for. So as we stand right now, if nothing terrible happened before the St. Louis matchup, I would give him the nod with the first 11 here.
Yeah, I do think it's probably better defense with Rosales back there rather than Biru, right? Yeah. And that's trying to praise Joseph and not necessarily ding Guilherme. I'm with you, and I think because if you assume that Jaden is going to be subbed out before 60 minutes, right, and potentially in that first half, it's better to keep starting him if he's able to give it a go, because let's say you sub him on in the 60th minute if we play him off the bench and he has to immediately come out. If you start him, we're going to have subs to get him off. You could screw yourself later on, maybe have to play a man down or have him hobble around out there and hurt his chances at getting into the tournament with Canada. So I guess kind of on the same page there. And while we're talking about that, just to highlight the data visor again, dude, here's another chart they have. The substitution timeline. So that top row, the average first sub for Austin has been made in the 52nd minute. And you can see the earliest, right, were those sub 30 minutes against Charlotte. And then against, I forget who else, but it's interesting to see how many of these subs Austin has had to make in the first half. I guess that second sub line is the second substitution in Charlotte. That would be Jaden right there after Biru had to get, or we had to deal with the red card there. But again, I just wanted to highlight again how fucking cool this little web app is that has been made, because you got all kinds of good stuff there in terms of looking to analyze your favorite team.
That is pretty cool. And we talked about it. I can't remember which episode it was, but having to use 5 subs before halftime due to injuries to start this season. Obviously, Pep's in there, Jaden as well. I can't remember the other ones, but
Ilya,
Biru, he got hurt too, right? So like that this is really cool stuff. I'm gonna give this site a look.
So thinking about the rest of the team, man, like I guess my other question is, how much, if any, do we see those 3 guys who came back last week? How much do their minutes leashes get? I guess maybe a better term to use than that, but like how much do the minutes loads go up for these guys, if anything? I think my thoughts are in line with how they debuted or re-debuted last week, right? Like I think Danny could potentially be in line for a start here. I don't think that's crazy. Maybe you save that for the midweek, or even maybe on Saturday, because this week coming up with the Sunday night soccer on the road in Minnesota, Wednesday night soccer in San Diego, and then you turn around Saturday. So it's not your typical Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, a little bit more manageable with the 24 hours less that you get to recover on that first leg of the double game week. I mean, it's the rotation is going to be even more important. And again, trying to keep everybody healthy and not backslide on that injury report after we've waited so long to get to the point that we're at right now. Those are my concerns. I don't think we see more than 15 minutes from Brandon in this one after he got 5 and change, maybe even a little less in that game last weekend. Hoping to see Owen go 30-ish, right? But I think a start would be pretty far-fetched at this point. What are your thoughts on those guys, or any other desires, questions you have about other spots in the lineup?
I don't think you're getting a BV start, obviously. I don't think you're getting an Owen start, obviously. Danny would be of those guys, have the highest percentage to get the nod to start here. I think maybe even 30 for Owen. It might be a little much, but we'll see. I think if you're going to try to really ramp him up for Wednesday, and as you talked about, moving into Saturday, but there's also a situation here where you're really careful with all of these guys before the World Cup break here, where you're not trying to set anything back before this full reset takes place. So, I'm expecting a Ramirez-Azuni pairing up top. I think you're sticking with your back 4 there. I think Joe Rowe, Ilya in the middle, Jaden, Facu on the wings there. I'm excited for Joe Rowe in a bit of a revenge spot here versus a club that, the exit was not very ceremonious for him. He expressed some frustrations with how they let go of him. And I think rightfully so. Seeing what he's been able to do, this is a guy that I would have wanted to pay if I was in the Minnesota organization. So that's my 11 there. You got anything that differs in that aspect?
No, I don't think so. I think it's the same 11 for me if Jaden's able to go, and just understanding as a fan that he's unlikely to play more than 45 minutes at this point. I think that's like the way you should be approaching it. Anything you get after halftime is house money to return to that term. So we'd be careful with that. We don't have any. I'm just saying we could acquire some in the second half.
Take your underwear off. Got to neutralize that.
Yeah, man, I think I'm with you on I think you handle those 3 guys with care this week. Again, in that same order. I think Danny should be more ready to go than the others, then Owen, then BV. And I think the only chance of a Brandon Vasquez start is maybe Road St. Louis in 2 weeks, the last match before the break. But again, I don't think I'm personally expecting a start from him before we go into the summer. Danny for sure, and Owen maybe is where I'm at on those 3 right now.
And I'm okay with the BV. You know what I mean? We've had to wait. I know it's been a long way for getting him back, but the last thing we need is for a Ricky Pooch situation. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Where he's back and then boom, he does it again. Because once you do the first one, it becomes more likely and probable that you can do them on both sides.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it raises the risk rate on both legs. So like being super cautious with him, I am fine with. And I think that the lineup that we kind of settled on there, I think it has enough to get the job done versus this Minnesota team.
Yeah, the continuity with this 11. And again, I know we didn't have Jaden last week, but again, the rest of this unit, especially with Rosales in that midfield, I think has, again, it's looked good over the last couple games, all things considered.
And if Jaden's not, and if there is something going on, and like we're going to be even more cautious with him. And you're not going to give him to start and potentially use him off the bench, but that does present the potential consequences of him catching the thing. I'm fine with Johnny here. I think this is actually a pretty favorable spot for Johnny to get a start because we're going to need that speed up and down the sidelines. And if Guilherme is getting way out of position, running and doing his thing, you have to be able to recover versus this Minnesota team, or they're going to hit you on that counterattack. And then if they don't score off of that, they're going to deploy that kind of high press. And I'm totally fine and comfortable with Johnny in that wing position and also sliding back and covering for Guilherme.
Unless you have anything else to add on this one, E, how much is Austin FC winning by on Sunday night?
I'm going 2-1. I think they get a fortunate one versus Brad, but the guy's been absolutely on fire. And I think it's just going to have a tough time scoring on him. Yep. Give him the ball, make him play with it, make him uncomfortable, and we'll be all right. They'll start to press a little bit more as this game goes on if you're 0-0 moving into the second half of this matchup. But, like, you can beat this team. We've displayed that we can beat this team on the road. Yep. And, like, this would go a really long way here if you're able to get 3 points in regard to moving up this table before we break.
Oh, and it could let you get a win here. You could rotate fairly heavily Wednesday and just be ready to beat the shit out of Sporting when they come to town Saturday, which, again, the team at the bottom of the table coming to Q2, not a guaranteed win historically, but we certainly look forward to that one. I'm going to go 1-1 draw here, respecting the hate that I have for Mike Boxall. A lot of that is because that guy's really fucking good. He's and good. The cornerstone of their back line. And even without him for the majority of the season, you take those 6 goals away from the Vancouver blowout, they've given up 1 goal per game in the rest of their matches here this year. So I think it's going to be hard to put up multiple goals on this defense. And I do think they're able to sneak one past us. So I got a 1-1 draw, but I like your prediction a lot better. And look, we don't care how you get it done, boys. Just bring us home 3 points.
Come on down to Farmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's Lost Business Day.
Last business day here on episode 305 of the North End podcast. Tacoma Defiance in town this weekend. This match will kick off at 7:30 p.m. Central. Out there at Palmer Field this season, Tacoma sitting on just 1 win, 3 draws, and 5 losses in their 9 matches played, sitting on 8 points and in 12th place in the Western Conference of MLS Next Pro. 10 goals for and 15 against. Again, similarities to the first team schedule here this weekend. This is another team that we have already seen at the Next Pro level here in 2026. So just a reminder, offensively, the guy you have to look out for the most this year from Tacoma is their first team supplemental roster forward. Number 36, Yu Suskanome, leads Tacoma with 4 goals in his 7 matches. And he's the only player on Tacoma with multiple goals this season. They have a pair of players that have 2 assists. That's defender number 84, Charlie Gaffney, and first team off-roster homegrown forward number 90, Sebastian Gomez, each with 2 assists in their 7 respective appearances. Consistency from a player personnel perspective has not been present for Tacoma to this point of the season here. They have no players who have started all 9 matches and just 2 guys who have appeared in all 9 matches. That's 24-year-old defender number 40, Mark O'Neill, and 18-year-old forward number 30, Edson Carley. This team has just 1 clean sheet in their 9 matches played. They have only created 16 big chances. That's 19th highest in Next Pro, and they've given up the second most set piece goals in Next Pro, with 6 conceded in their 9 games. Again, these two teams met back on March 22nd in Tacoma. That was a 1-0 win for FCTO behind Kenny Hott's 88th minute game-winning goal. But that was a very close and contested match. Both teams created just one big chance. Austin, of course, took theirs, and the shots were 11-10 in favor of Tacoma. And in that match that these teams already played, like, Ibrahim Asal was coming back from injury, if I recall correctly. So he played off the bench, right? Mm-hmm. He's been in and starting for, I think, every match that he's been fit for. Jorge and Irvin DNP'd, right? They were with the first team. Riley Thomas left early in that match with an injury. And like, we also know Riley missed last week for undisclosed reason. So hopefully he's back. We did get pictures of him in practice today from the second team's social accounts. So hopefully Riley Thomas is back after his latest absence. I would expect more of the same from what we saw against North Texas last Saturday in terms of this lineup, considering that we don't expect to have to call up, or we can't call up Jorge without signing him, and we don't expect Urban or Micah to be with the first team on Sunday. So hoping that Charlie Farah is at least getting close from that separated shoulder. But again, like, Eric Lauta has been more than fine.
Yeah.
And from a Austin FC fan perspective, I want to see more Eric Feliciano this week because I am intrigued by this young prospect.
We are definitely intrigued by this prospect. This Austin FC 2 team, man, just playing really well right now. And, you know, I want to go back and say I felt that I was wrong about Lauta. I know, you know, he had a rough start to the season. I thought there was a pretty big gap between him and Charlie, but he's played really well. I do think the continuity of the back line and the team in general has improved as the season has gone on. And just, you know, for this Austin FC 2 team, when you see Jorge Alistue there, the dude's one of the best players in the Next Pro.
Yeah,
league.
for sure.
He really is. He's top 3 in FOTMOB rating right now. I know that's not an end-all, be-all. He's like top 20 in goals. He's obviously had the call-ups. He has the most shots on target per 90, and he's got the most shots per 90 in the league right now. He's one of the best players in the league. And you have him there. He provides a bit more stability. We saw some of his leadership capabilities, even at the first team level, where he's on guys, he's trying to encourage guys. So, like, he's one of the best players in the league. I love seeing him in this lineup. Micah, I hope what we saw last week was the bit of a start of a run of good form for him here. And you know that Irvin Torres is just a solid player all around. You know what you're going to get out of him. So I'm super high on this Austin FC 2 team right now. As you mentioned, last time we saw this Tacoma Defiance Club, we were not nearly at full strength. So I expect an Austin FC 2 team who beat this Tacoma club 1-0 to really come out here and be able to put it on a Tacoma team that I don't think is as good as us.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping we're, you know, coming off an Austin FC win and the Spurs are up comfortably and we can flip this one on about half an hour into it, because I don't know if we have tri-screen technology we're going to be watching on Sunday. So yeah, I don't have anything else to add here. How much is the second team winning by at home on Sunday night?
I think it's a party, man. I think this is a 3-0 game for Austin FC 2. I think you put it on them and they got one win. They're not like, you know what I mean? They're just not a very good team. You already beat them at shorthanded. So, like, go out there, handle your fucking business. You're better than this. Give me 3-0.
Well, I'm going to stick with the less fun predictions here, but we would still take a 2-0 victory, a clean sheet at Palmer Field. Always something that we welcome here in the North End. So a 3-0 for E, 2-0 for me. Don't care how you get it done, boys. Got to protect home field and bring 3 points.
And if we could have essentially a boy factory.
The boy factory, hard work in the first team quality. Today's academy, can't you see? Tomorrow's Austin FC.
Nobody clip boy factory and use that.
Boy Factory on episode 305 of the North End podcast. Wanted to touch on 2 little pieces of Academy news before we recap the matches from last weekend. First, congrats and good luck to Oliver Hamadi. He was called into the annual U.S. Soccer U14 Talent Identification Camp. That's in Georgia this weekend. So we know we have heard Oliver's name, from a lot of these recaps scoring a lot of goals for the U14. So being recognized, getting the opportunity to go out there and, kind of start making a name for himself as he rises up the ranks here in the youth national team system. So good luck to Oliver.
Absolutely. That is awesome to see, and wishing him the best.
And then I did see credit to We Are Austin TV for amplifying this post. This came from Marcus Charez. That's my best go at Marcus's last name there. He reported that Austin FC has signed this promising U14 named Liam Smith. And Smith was playing with Silicon Valley SA. Smith has been on trial of late with Philly, New England, and Colorado, and was also picking up additional interest from Charlotte, Nashville, and the LA Galaxy. But Marcus reporting here that Liam Smith, one of the top attacking players in the 2012 class, is heading to Austin FC for the next academy season. So we love to see these types of reports, of course, when those who are plugged in to the youth ranks say that we have nailed one of these top attacking players in their class. We like to see that because, again, that's a place where this club has not had a ton of success. Like, again, we understand the fledgling nature of the academy over the last couple years, but as you start to build year over year, you want to see some of these names popping up. So clearly Liam Smith, a few years away from being in, second, first team conversations, but you like to see these high profile additions to the Boy Factory. So we'll keep our eyes out over the coming months for Liam Smith highlights.
Absolutely. And you got to start somewhere. So that's awesome to see. We talked about the excitement with Feliciano as well and everything. So stuff moving in the right direction in my book.
Talking about the performances from last weekend, we will start with the U15s. This was a 3-match set against Charlotte FC's Academy U15s. Tough result here against Charlotte. Is a 4-0 loss. We go up the ladder to the U16s. It was a late decisive winner by Luke Garcia, 80th minute goal to win 1-0 at the U16 level and bring home 3 points. And then you go up to the U18 level, taking care of business, start to finish, 3-0 win over Charlotte. David Romero opened the scoring in the 38th minute. Then Rocco Villana got one in the 70th before Dominic Dono closed the match in the 80th with the 3rd goal. So 2 clean sheet victories out of 3 matches. We will take it, boys, and keep it up.
Absolutely. That's really great to see. I was actually just looking at Luke Garcia on a little prep soccer thing that I had pulled up there.
Okay, there you go.
Feliciano. So that was serendipitous.
Nice. Well, we will close out today's episode with some best ball updates, in week 11. All right, North End Podcast 77, the highest score of the year, jumping up into 4th place. And look, like, it's 1 week, but David and Soccer Wise had a little bit of a dud there. We're just 16 points back all of a sudden of second place, and look, only 101 behind H and the boys with We Are Austin TV. But hey, man, I mean, we got 23, 22 game weeks left, something like that. There's math in there. We got time. There's
plenty of math going on there. Those We Are Austin TV boys have been hot all season long, but we'll keep climbing the ranks here. Yeah.
So we move to the Patreon leagues. We started out with the Sentimiento leagues. Shout out to B. Brian earns a birthday weekend win. Big 81 here in week 11. So starting to rejoin the party there is Brian in the Sentimiento League, still a top 4 in this league of Birdman, Aries, Mace, and Cesar. But Tex-Rex 1 point behind that 4th spot, and Kevmo just 5 points behind. So things are tight in the middle of the table there in the Sentimiento. We go to the Heartbeat League. This bastard Peach, man, just crushing right now. An 81 for Peach, extending his overall lead in the Heartbeat to 38 points, followed by Tim Thompson, Mike Crignola, ZG a 42. Hey. We're holding on to 4th place there. Josh putting the pressure on in 5th. And then we go to the Rooted League where Schnorb Jones gets his first win of the year with a 70. Right behind 68. So maintaining that top spot in the Rooted League, followed by Trevor, Logan, and Jones. We go to the overall standings. Again, the top 8 scoring teams will be in our Premier League next year when we move to Pro Rel. And right now it is still E on top. 19 points clear of the field, followed by Peach, Birdman, Trevor, Logan, Tim, Jones, and Mike Crignola. First 4 out right now, Aries, ZG, Mace, and Josh. So I'm third week in a row, I think I'm mentioning. I love watching this table and the movement every week. You know, Aries has been 2nd, 5th, 3rd, 8th. Like, he drops to 9th, so Mike the line right now. But still competitive, still fun every week. You know, when we put these in the Discord when the scores come out, there's always a little bit of chatter in there. It's usually Aggie being like, fuck. It's just a blast, man. Shout out to everybody who's participating.
Yeah, man, it's really, really fun, and I can't wait to see how this Premier League shapes up, because I feel like, this is going to go right down to the wire.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It most likely is going right down to the wire. Probably have some movement on that last day. Yeah. I feel like my team has benefited from that first, like, kind of bye week cluster. Yes, I don't think I had a lot of guys missing. Sure. And I think that could potentially come back to bite me, but we're feeling good right now.
Yeah. It comes back around on the schedule later in the season, right? But you may have a transfer window where, if you care enough, you could be like, hey, I got more games with these guys, so we're going to swap them out. Anyways, we'll save some of that for our Patreon-only best ball focus pods, which do exist.
That's true.
So if you have not joined the Patreon yet and you want to play best ball or get access to any of that stuff, right? We gave away the Owen Wolf trading card last week. We'll see what else is coming next. Anything else for you here before we shut it down on our Thursday?
All right, man, let's get some points up there in Minnesota. Feeling good about it.
Yeah, it'd be great to bring back any sort of result, especially 3 points from the place where we have won the most on the road to this point of this club's short history. We appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 305 of the North End Podcast. Reminder, we are back on Monday, recapping Sunday Night Soccer against Minnesota United, recapping the second team's Sunday night match against Tacoma Defiance, and of course, talking about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We'll do the same, and we will see you back here on Monday for another episode. Until then, easy. And I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.